The council chambers aboard the Harmony felt like a courtroom where humanity was on trial. Dr. Marcus Stone sat across from Keeper Zoss, watching as the alien scientist displayed holographic records that made his blood run cold. These were not just warnings or theories. They were detailed documentation of what happened when civilizations pushed quantum folding technology too far. "Your species believes it has made a breakthrough," Keeper Zoss said, its multidimensional form shifting as it spoke. "But you have stumbled upon knowledge that was forbidden for good reason. Observe what your ancestors in science would have called the ultimate experiment." The hologram showed a star system in what had once been predecessor space. Stone recognized the quantum signatures immediately. They matched the readings from his own engine perfectly, but the scale was thousands of times larger. Massive installations orbited dead stars, each one generating quantum fold fields that could transport entire fleets across the galaxy in an instant. The predecessors built quantum fold networks that connected every world in their empire, Ambassador Veltar explained from beside the display. They could move armies, resources, and entire populations anywhere they needed them. For 10,000 years, they ruled the galaxy with technology that made them seem like gods. Commander Lisa Morgan studied the images with a military eye. The strategic advantages were obvious. Any civilization with quantum fold technology could strike anywhere without warning, resupply instantly, and retreat before enemies could respond. No wonder the predecessors had dominated the galaxy. But the technology was flawed from the beginning, Keeper Zoss continued. Every quantum fold created microscopic tears in the fabric of reality. Your human scientists understand quantum entanglement, yes? These tears were entangled across vast distances, creating connections that the predecessors never detected. The hologram shifted to show technical diagrams that hurt to look at directly. Stone recognized some of the mathematical principles, but others were beyond human understanding. The equations described how reality itself was structured and how quantum folding interacted with forces that humanity had not yet discovered. "Reality has what you might call a breaking point," Veltar said. "When enough quantum tears accumulate in a region of space, they begin to resonate with each other. The effect spreads through quantum entanglement networks until entire sectors become unstable." Stone watched in fascination and horror as the hologram demonstrated the cascade effect. It started with a single quantum fold test, much like his own. The tear it created was invisible and seemed harmless. But when thousands of similar tears accumulated across a network of connected worlds, something terrible happened. The quantum foam that underlies all matter and energy began to unravel, Keeper Zoss explained. Stars flickered and died as the forces holding atoms together became unstable. Planets simply ceased to exist as reality forgot they had ever been there. Dr. Betty Ross, who had remained quiet throughout the presentation, finally spoke up. "How long did this process take? Surely the predecessors had time to find a solution." The alien beings exchanged what might have been glances, though their forms of communication were difficult for humans to interpret. "The cascade effect occurs at different rates depending on usage patterns," Veltar replied. "The predecessors used quantum folding technology for thousands of years before they noticed the first warning signs. But once the cascade began, they had less than 50 years before their entire civilization was consumed." The hologram changed again, showing the final days of the predecessor empire. Their greatest minds worked desperately to find a solution, building massive machines designed to repair the tears in reality. Some of their attempts seemed to work temporarily, but the damage was too widespread to stop. They tried everything, Keeper Zos said quietly. Mathematical solutions, technological fixes, even attempts to evacuate to distant galaxies. Nothing worked. The quantum cascade followed them wherever they went, spreading through entanglement networks that spanned the entire known universe. Morgan felt a chill of recognition. You're saying that quantum entanglement means the damage could spread beyond just the regions where the technology is used? Precisely. When the predecessors finally realized the true scope of the problem, they sent out warning beacons to every inhabited world they could reach. Most of those messages have been lost to time, but the Council preserves what remains. The hologram displayed text in languages that predated human civilization by millions of years. Even translated into English, the words carried a weight of desperate urgency. To those who come after us, we achieved the dream of instantaneous travel across any distance. We thought ourselves masters of the universe. We were wrong. Reality itself rebels against the forces we have unleashed. Already, our greatest worlds flicker in and out of existence. Soon, we too will be forgotten by the universe itself. Learn from our mistake. Some knowledge is too dangerous to pursue. Stone stared at the ancient warning, his life's work suddenly feeling like a curse instead of a blessing. How many civilizations have rediscovered quantum folding since then? 17 that we know of, Veltar replied. Each time the Council has faced the same choice. Intervene early and preserve galactic stability, or allow another species to follow the predecessors into extinction. What happened to those 17 civilizations? Ambassador Patricia Webb asked, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer. Keeper Zos displayed images of dead worlds scattered across the galaxy. Some showed the twisted remains of once great cities, frozen in time at the moment reality had abandoned them. Others were simply empty space where star systems should have been. 14 accepted the Council's guidance and agreed to abandon quantum folding technology. They joined the galactic community and prospered under our protection. 3 chose to continue their research despite our warnings. The implication was clear, but Stone had to ask anyway. What happened to those 3 species? They no longer exist, Veltar said simply. Their home systems are marked as forbidden zones where reality remains unstable even millions of years later. No Council ship will enter those regions, and we have standing orders to destroy any vessel that attempts to leave them. Morgan understood the threat hidden in those words. The Council was not just warning humanity about the dangers of quantum folding technology. They were prepared to enforce their restrictions with whatever force was necessary. The choice before your species is simple, Keeper Zos continued. Abandon quantum folding technology completely and accept integration into the galactic community, under our guidance. Or face the same fate as the predecessors and the other species who chose unwisely. Stone felt everything he had worked for crumbling around him. There must be some way to use the technology safely. What if we limit the number of folds or restrict the distances involved? The alien beings shared another of their incomprehensible communications before Veltar responded. The predecessors tried every possible limitation and safeguard. The fundamental problem cannot be solved through engineering or mathematics. Quantum folding is inherently destructive to the fabric of reality itself. But your own ships use faster than light travel, Ross pointed out. How is that different? Keeper Zos gestured, and the hologram showed cross-sections of Council ship technology. We use subspace tunneling, which creates temporary distortions in space-time without damaging the underlying quantum structure. Our journeys take days or weeks instead of seconds. but they do not threaten the stability of the universe. Stone studied the alien technology with growing frustration. It was clearly superior to anything humanity had developed, but it was also fundamentally limited. The quantum fold engine offered possibilities that subspace tunneling could never match. What if we could find a way to repair the quantum tears as we create them? He asked desperately. Or develop shielding that prevents the cascade effect? The predecessors spent their final centuries pursuing exactly those solutions, Veltar replied. They built machines the size of planets dedicated to repairing reality itself. None of their efforts succeeded. Captain Jake Sullivan, who had been quietly listening from the back of the chamber, finally stepped forward. So you're asking us to give up the greatest discovery in human history because other species failed to control it? The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop as the council representatives focused their attention on the pilot who had made humanity's first quantum fold jump. Keeper Zoss moved closer to Sullivan, its form becoming more solid and threatening. You are the human who tested this technology, it said. Tell us exactly what you experienced during your journey to Proxima Centauri. Sullivan looked uncomfortable under the alien's scrutiny. The jump itself was instantaneous from my perspective. One moment I was near Earth, and the next I was in the Proxima system. I conducted the planned observations and returned without incident. Did you notice any unusual readings during your time in the target system? Any fluctuations in local space or unexplained energy signatures? Well, there were some minor anomalies, Sullivan admitted. Background radiation levels were slightly. 3 days after Captain Sullivan returned from Proxima Centauri, the morning sky above Earth changed forever. Commander Lisa Morgan was reviewing the quantum fold engine data when her radio exploded with panicked voices from orbital defense stations. This is Luna Base to all stations. We have multiple unknown contacts materializing in Earth orbit. I repeat, unknown ships are appearing around our planet. Morgan dropped her coffee cup and rushed to the nearest observation deck. Through the reinforced windows, she could see them clearly against the black of space. Dozens of alien vessels had simply appeared without warning, their sleek forms unlike anything humans had ever built. They moved with purpose, arranging themselves in a perfect formation above Earth's major continents. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Each one was at least a mile long, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shift, color in the sunlight. They made no aggressive moves, but their presence alone sent shock waves through every government on Earth. Dr. Marcus Stone joined Morgan at the window, his face pale with worry. "How did they get here so fast?" he whispered. "Our sensors showed nothing approaching the system." "The same way we got to Proxima Centauri," Morgan replied grimly. "They have faster-than-light travel, too, much better than ours from the looks of it." Within hours, every military base on Earth was at full alert. Fighter jets scrambled into the atmosphere, though everyone knew they would be useless against technology this advanced. President Nicole Carter called an emergency meeting of world leaders, trying to coordinate humanity's response to first contact. The aliens made the first move toward communication. A transmission reached Earth's major broadcasting stations simultaneously, delivered in perfect English, Chinese, Spanish, and dozens of other human languages. The voice that spoke was artificial, but somehow conveying deep concern. "People of Earth, we are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come not as conquerors, but as neighbors who must speak with you urgently about your recent technological achievement. Please prepare a delegation to meet with us. The matter we must discuss affects not only your species, but the stability of the entire galaxy. President Carter chose her response team carefully. Morgan would represent Earth's military interests, while Stone would explain the quantum fold engine technology. Dr. Betty Ross joined them as the lead technical expert, and Ambassador Patricia Webb would handle diplomatic protocols. The meeting took place aboard the largest alien vessel, which the beings identified as the Council ship Harmony. Morgan felt her breath catch as their shuttle approached the massive craft. The alien ship was even more impressive up close, with surfaces that seemed to ripple like liquid metal while maintaining perfect structural integrity. Inside the Harmony, the human delegation found themselves face to face with representatives of species they had only dreamed about in science fiction. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective stood nearly 8 feet tall, with crystalline skin that sparkled in the ship's lighting. His voice carried the weight of centuries when he spoke. Humans of Earth, we welcome you to the galactic community, though we wish the circumstances were different. Your development of quantum fold technology has forced us to make contact much sooner than we had planned. Keeper Zos, the Council's chief scientist, studied the human delegation with multifaceted eyes that belonged to no Earth creature. The being's form shifted constantly, as if it existed in multiple dimensions at once. When it spoke, reality seemed to bend around its words. Your quantum fold engine represents a breakthrough that we have been monitoring with great concern. We must understand exactly how your species developed this technology and what you intend to do with it. Stone stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. We spent 15 years developing the quantum fold principle. Our mathematics showed that space and time could be manipulated to create instantaneous travel across any distance. Why are you concerned about this? Surely your own faster-than-light technology is far more advanced than ours. A sound that might have been laughter came from Ambassador Veltar, but there was no humor in it. Dr. Stone, our ships took 3 standard days to reach your system from the nearest Council world. Your technology would have made the same journey in less than a second. Do you understand the implications of what you have created? Morgan felt a chill run down her spine. These beings, with their clearly superior technology, were afraid of something humanity had built. Their weapons could probably destroy Earth's entire fleet in minutes, yet they spoke of the quantum fold engine with genuine terror. We don't understand, Ambassador Webb said carefully. Our tests were successful, and we detected no harmful effects. Captain Sullivan completed his journey to Proxima Centauri without incident. Keeper Zos moved closer to the humans, and they could feel the strange energy that surrounded the being. Tell us exactly what happened during your test. Every detail, no matter how small it might seem. The safety of countless worlds may depend on your accuracy. Stone described the entire testing procedure, from the initial activation of the quantum fold engine to Sullivan's safe return. He showed them the energy readings and explained his mathematical principles. The alien scientists listened with growing alarm, occasionally exchanging words in languages that hurt human ears to hear. Your readings confirm our worst fears, Veltar finally said. The quantum signatures from your test match patterns we have seen before, ancient patterns that led to the destruction of entire civilizations. What do you mean? Morgan asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know the answer. Keeper Zos gestured, and the air around them filled with 3-dimensional images. Star charts appeared, showing vast regions of empty space where solar systems should have been. These were once thriving worlds, home to the most advanced civilization the galaxy has ever known. They called themselves the predecessors, and they achieved exactly what your species has just accomplished. The images shifted, showing recordings of massive space battles and incredible technological achievements. Cities that spanned entire continents, ships that could reshape planets, and beings of pure energy who had transcended physical form. The predecessors had been gods among the stars. They mastered quantum folding technology millions of years ago, Veltar continued. For a time, they used it to build an empire that stretched across half the galaxy. Their instantaneous travel gave them advantages that no other species could match. Stone watched the images with fascination and growing dread. What happened to them? They discovered that reality itself has limits, Keeper Zoss replied. Quantum folding does not simply bend space and time. It tears holes in the fabric of existence itself. Small tears at first, barely detectable. But with continued use, those tears grow larger and begin to spread. The images changed again, showing solar systems where stars flickered and died for no apparent reason. Planets that simply vanished from existence, leaving behind empty space that sensors could not penetrate. The destruction spread like a plague across the predecessor empire. The tears in reality created cascade effects, Veltar explained. What your species calls quantum entanglement meant that damage in one location could instantly affect regions thousands of light years away. The predecessors realized too late that their greatest achievement was also their ultimate weapon of self-destruction. Morgan felt sick as she understood the implications. You're saying that our quantum fold engine could destroy not just Earth, but other star systems as well? The potential exists, Keeper Joss confirmed. The mathematical models show that unrestricted use of quantum folding technology will eventually destabilize the quantum foam that underlies all reality. When that happens, the destruction spreads at the speed of light until entire galactic regions become uninhabitable. Stone shook his head in disbelief. But our calculations show the technology is safe. We detected no harmful effects during our test. The effects are cumulative and often delayed, Veltar replied. The predecessors used quantum folding for thousands of years before the cascade failures began. By then, it was too late to stop the process. Their entire civilization vanished in what we call the Great Silence. Ambassador Webb struggled to process this information. Are you saying that every advanced civilization in the galaxy has avoided developing this technology because of what happened to the predecessors? Not every civilization, Keeper Zoss said quietly. Some species have rediscovered quantum folding over the millennia. Each time, the Council has been forced to intervene. Sometimes we arrive in time to prevent disaster. Sometimes we do not. The alien beings showed them images of dead worlds where quantum cascade effects had consumed everything. Empty regions of space where reality itself had been torn apart, leaving behind voids that would never heal. The galaxy was filled with monuments to species who had reached too far and paid the ultimate price. This is why we must speak with your leaders immediately, Veltar concluded. Humanity stands at a crossroads. You can choose to join the galactic community and accept restrictions on your most dangerous technology, or you can continue down a path that leads only to extinction. Dr. Marcus Stone wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive machine before him. The quantum fold engine stood 12 feet tall and hummed with energy that made his teeth ache. After 15 years of work, he was finally ready to test humanity's first faster-than-light drive. The Titan research facility buzzed with activity around him. Scientists moved between control panels while engineers checked every wire and connection. This was the most important day in human history, and everyone knew it. Stone had spent his entire career working toward this moment, and now it was here. Commander Lisa Morgan stood beside him, her military uniform crisp despite the heat from the machines. She represented Earth's Colonial Defense Force and had been assigned to oversee the project. Her job was to make sure everything went according to plan, but she also knew how dangerous this test could be. "Are we really ready for this, Doctor?" Morgan asked, her voice steady but concerned. Stone nodded, though his hands shook slightly as he checked his tablet. The numbers all looked good. The quantum fold engine was working exactly as his calculations predicted, unlike other faster-than-light theories that required months of travel between star systems. His design promised something incredible: instant travel across any distance in the galaxy. The test ship waited in the launch bay above them. The ESS Navigator was a small vessel, barely large enough for a crew of 3. Captain Jake Sullivan would pilot it through humanity's first jump to another star system. Their target was Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth. If everything worked, Sullivan would travel 4 light-years in less than a second. Stone walked to the main control panel and placed his hand on the activation switch. Around him, dozens of screens showed readings from sensors throughout the facility. Energy levels climbed steadily as the quantum fold engine prepared for its first real test. "All systems show green," announced Dr. Betty Ross, Stone's lead assistant. She had worked on the project for 8 years and knew every part of the engine better than anyone except Stone himself. "The quantum field is stable, and the fold matrix is ready." Morgan spoke into her radio, confirming that all safety protocols were in place. Military ships waited at a safe distance, ready to respond if something went wrong. The civilian population of Titan had been evacuated to underground shelters. Everyone hoped they would not be needed, but no one was taking chances. Captain Sullivan's voice crackled through the speakers from the Navigator. "Control, this is Navigator. All ship systems are ready. I'm standing by for jump sequence." Stone took a deep breath and looked at the faces around him. These people had dedicated years of their lives to this project. They believed in what they were doing, even though they were attempting something that had never been done before. Every previous human attempt at faster-than-light travel had failed. This was different. This would work. "Beginning jump sequence," Stone announced. His finger pressed the activation switch, and the quantum fold engine responded immediately. The machine's humming grew louder, rising to a pitch that made everyone in the room cover their ears. Energy readings spiked across all the monitors. The very air seemed to vibrate with power as the engine built up the forces needed to fold space and time. Through the observation windows, they could see the Navigator beginning to glow. Space around the small ship started to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. Reality itself was being manipulated, shaped by forces that Stone's equations had predicted but no human had ever witnessed. "Jump field forming," Dr. Ross called. Out, her voice barely audible over the noise. "All readings are within expected parameters." Stone watched the energy levels climb higher and higher. The quantum fold engine was performing perfectly, just as his mathematics had promised. Space continued to twist around the Navigator until the ship seemed to exist in several places at once. Then, in an instant, the Navigator vanished. The sudden silence was deafening. Where the test ship had been floating just moments before, there was now empty space. The quantum fold engine powered down automatically, its job complete. Stone stared at the empty launch bay, hardly believing what he had just witnessed. "Navigator, do you copy?" Morgan spoke into her radio, but received no response. The ship was gone, hopefully traveling through folded space toward Proxima Centauri. According to Stone's calculations, The journey should take no time at all from the navigator's perspective. Sullivan would emerge in the Proxima Centauri system, conduct his observations, and return within 6 hours. If everything worked as planned, humanity would finally have the technology to reach the stars. The waiting began immediately. Stone paced around the control room, checking and rechecking his data. Every calculation looked correct. The quantum fold engine had performed exactly as designed. The energy signatures matched his predictions perfectly. There was no reason to think anything had gone wrong. Dr. Ross monitored long-range sensors, watching for any sign of the navigator's return. The other scientists ran diagnostics on all their equipment, making sure everything was ready for Sullivan's arrival. Morgan coordinated with the military ships, keeping them informed of the test's progress. 3 hours passed with no word from the navigator. Stone began to worry that something might have gone wrong. His equations showed that the journey should be instantaneous, but perhaps he had made an error. Perhaps faster-than-light travel was more complicated than he had thought. Then, exactly 4 hours after the navigator had disappeared, space began to twist again above the launch bay. The quantum fold effect was different this time, more controlled and precise. Stone watched with growing excitement as his ship began to materialize. Out of folded space, the navigator appeared gradually, becoming solid as the quantum field collapsed around it. Captain Sullivan's voice immediately filled the control room through the radio. "Control, this is Navigator. Jump successful. I repeat, jump successful. We did it, people. We actually did it." Cheers erupted throughout the facility. Scientists hugged each other while engineers clapped and whistled. Stone felt tears of joy running down his face as he realized that his life's work had finally paid off. Humanity now possessed faster-than-light travel. Sullivan brought the navigator down to the landing bay and climbed out with a huge smile on his face. He carried data storage devices filled with readings and observations from Proxima Centauri. For the first time in human history, someone had visited another star system and returned to tell about it. "Dr. Stone," Sullivan said, shaking the scientist's hand firmly, "your engine works perfectly. The trip was smooth, and I gathered everything you requested. We're going to change the galaxy with this technology." Stone nodded, still overwhelmed by their success. The quantum fold engine represented humanity's greatest achievement. Soon, human ships would be able to travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly. New worlds would be explored. New civilizations might be encountered, and humanity would take its place among the stars. What none of them realized was that their breakthrough had already been detected. Across the galaxy, ancient sensors had registered the impossible energy signature of Stone's quantum fold engine. Alien civilizations that had existed for millions of years were now stirring with concern. They recognized the technology that humans had just developed, and they remembered what had happened the last time someone had used it. The warnings would come soon, but for now, humanity celebrated its greatest triumph, unaware of the horror they had unleashed upon the galaxy. President Nicole Carter stood at the podium in the United Nations General Assembly, facing representatives from every nation on Earth. The weight of humanity's future rested on the decision she was about to announce. Behind her, screens displayed images of the Council fleet maintaining its position in Earth's orbit, a constant reminder of the impossible choice humanity faced. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have received the Council's formal ultimatum," Carter began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "They have given us 72 hours to decide. We must either destroy all quantum fold technology and accept their guidance, or face complete isolation from the galactic community." Dr. Marcus Stone watched from the gallery, his hands clenched into fists. 3 weeks had passed since the aliens' arrival, and every day had brought new revelations about the dangers of his life's work. The Council had shared more records of civilizations destroyed by quantum folding technology, each story more terrifying than the last. Commander Lisa Morgan sat beside him, studying intelligence reports about the Council fleet. Earth's best military. Analysts had concluded that resistance was impossible. The alien ships possessed technology that could destroy human civilization without breaking their formation. But surrender felt equally devastating. "The Council has offered us membership in their galactic community," Carter continued. "They promise access to technologies that would solve many of our greatest challenges: clean energy, faster than light, communication, medical advances beyond our imagination. The price for this knowledge is the complete abandonment of quantum folding research." Ambassador Patricia Webb had spent days negotiating with the Council representatives, trying to find some middle ground, but their position was absolute. No compromise was possible when the stability of reality itself was at stake. In his laboratory at the Titan Research Facility, Stone had been conducting secret experiments with the quantum fold engine. He refused to believe that the technology was as dangerous as the aliens claimed. There had to be a way to use it safely, some modification that would prevent the quantum cascade effects. Dr. Betty Ross entered his lab carrying another set of disturbing readings from the Proxima Centauri system. Long-range sensors were detecting increasing levels of quantum instability around the star, where Captain Sullivan had emerged from fold space. The anomalies were spreading slowly but steadily, just as the Council had predicted. "Marcus, you need to see this," Ross said, displaying the latest data on his screens. "The quantum fluctuations have increased by 12% in the past week. Whatever we did to that system, it's getting worse." Stone studied the readings with growing frustration. The mathematics should have predicted stable fold points, but reality was proving more complex than his equations had accounted for. The quantum tiers were not healing themselves as his model suggested they would. "There has to be an explanation," he muttered, running new calculations. "Maybe if we adjust the fold frequency or modify the containment fields." "Marcus, stop," Ross said firmly. "The Council has shown us what happens when civilizations keep trying to fix this technology. It always ends the same way." Meanwhile, in the Council chambers aboard the Harmony, Keeper Zos was analyzing data from Earth's quantum fold test with growing alarm. The readings showed patterns that matched the early stages of previous cascade events. Humanity had unknowingly started a process that would eventually consume their entire stellar region. Ambassador Veltar reviewed reports from Council monitoring stations throughout local space. The quantum disturbance from Earth's test was propagating along entanglement networks in ways that their models had not fully predicted. This species had somehow managed to create fold effects that were more destructive than previous civilizations had achieved. "The human fold technique appears to be particularly dangerous," Veltar reported to the Council Assembly. "Their mathematical approach creates quantum tiers that are both deeper and more stable than we have previously encountered. If they continue their research, the cascade effect could reach core Council worlds within a few centuries." Captain Sullivan had been questioning everything since his return from Proxima Centauri. The strange readings he had dismissed as minor anomalies now seemed ominous in light of the Council's warnings. He found himself wondering if he had already doomed his own species by making that first test flight. Back on Earth, President Carter faced mounting pressure from world leaders who demanded different responses to the Council's ultimatum. Some nations wanted to surrender immediately and accept alien guidance. Others called for defiance, arguing that humanity should not abandon its greatest achievement because of alien threats. The Chinese premier has withdrawn his support for cooperation, Carter's chief of staff reported during an emergency cabinet meeting. He believes we should continue quantum fold research in secret, regardless of Council warnings. And the European Federation? Carter asked. Split down the middle. Half want to comply with the Council's demands, half want to negotiate for more time. General Patricia Hayes, head of Earth's Joint Military Command, presented the latest analysis of the alien fleet. Our best estimates suggest the Council ships could sterilize Earth's surface in under 6 hours. Their energy output readings are off our scales. We have no effective defense against their technology. Carter rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of 8 billion lives in her decision. What about our scientists? Do they believe there's any way to make the quantum fold engine safe? Dr. Stone insists he can find a solution. But Dr. Ross and most of the research team agree with the Council's assessment. The technology is simply too dangerous to continue developing. In his laboratory, Stone was making a desperate gamble. He had convinced himself that one more test could prove the technology was safe. A small-scale fold experiment, carefully controlled and monitored, might demonstrate that the quantum cascade effects could be contained. Ross discovered his preparations and immediately contacted Commander Morgan. He's going to do another test, she reported urgently. Marcus thinks he can prove the Council wrong, but he's going to get us all killed. Morgan rushed to the Titan facility with a security team, hoping to stop Stone before he could activate the quantum fold engine. She found him in the main laboratory, making final adjustments to the fold matrix while ignoring the warning alarms that were sounding throughout the facility. Marcus, step away from the controls, Morgan ordered, her hand on her sidearm. The Council has detection equipment throughout the solar system. If you activate that engine, they'll know immediately. I have to try, Stone replied, his voice desperate. This technology could take humanity to the stars. We can't just surrender our future because some aliens are afraid of what we might achieve. Those aliens have existed for millions of years, Morgan countered. They've seen what this technology does to civilizations. Why can't you accept that they might be right? Stone's finger hovered over the activation switch. Around him, screens showed the quantum fold engine building power for another test. This time, instead of sending a ship to another star system, he planned to create a small fold in empty space near Earth, just enough to prove that the technology could be used without causing widespread damage. I've run the calculations hundreds of times, he said. A controlled fold lasting less than a microsecond should create minimal quantum disturbance. If the tears heal themselves as my mathematics predicts, it will prove the Council's fears are unfounded. Ross entered the laboratory, with additional security personnel. Marcus, the quantum instability in the Proxima system has increased again. Whatever healing effect you think should happen, it's not working. That's because the first test was too large, Stone argued. This time will be different. I'll create the smallest possible fold effect, just enough to demonstrate controlled quantum manipulation. Above Earth's atmosphere, Council sensors immediately detected the power buildup in the quantum fold engine. Ambassador Veltar received an urgent alert from the monitoring stations positioned throughout the solar system. The humans are preparing another test, his aide reported. Energy signatures match their previous fold experiment, but on a much smaller scale. Veltar's crystalline features darkened with concern. Even a small quantum fold could trigger cascade effects if the local space was already unstable from previous testing. The humans were about to make a mistake that could doom their entire species. Contact their leaders immediately, Veltar ordered. Tell them that any activation of quantum fold technology will be considered an act of aggression against the galactic community. We will respond accordingly. The message reached President Carter just as her emergency phone was ringing with reports from the Titan facility. Stone's unauthorized test was about to begin, and there was no time to stop it through normal channels. General Hayes, do we have any way to disable the quantum fold engine remotely? Carter asked. Negative, Madam President. Dr. Stone has isolated the facility systems to prevent outside interference. The only way to stop him is with a direct strike on the installation. The quantum fold engine activated with a sound that existed beyond human hearing. Dr. Marcus Stone watched in fascination as space began to twist in front of him, creating the smallest possible fold effect his calculations would allow. For exactly 0.7 microseconds, reality bent in ways that violated every known law of physics. Then the cascade began. Commander Lisa Morgan felt it first as a vibration in her bones, a wrongness that made her teeth ache and her vision blur. The air in the laboratory seemed to thicken, as if the very molecules were forgetting how to exist properly. Warning alarms throughout the Titan facility began screaming alerts that no one had ever heard before. Quantum field collapse detected, Dr. Betty Ross called out, her voice cracking with terror as she read instruments that were displaying impossible readings. The fold effect is not dissipating. It's growing stronger. Stone stared at his monitors in disbelief. According to his calculations, the tiny quantum fold should have collapsed harmlessly within nanoseconds. Instead, the disturbance was expanding, creating ripples in space-time that spread outward like cracks in broken glass. "This isn't possible," he whispered, frantically working at his control panel. "The math shows the fold should be stable. The quantum tiers should heal themselves." Above Earth's atmosphere, every council ship detected the disaster unfolding in the planet's solar system. Ambassador Veltar watched in horror as ancient warning systems activated for the first time in millennia. The quantum signature from the human test matched the worst-case scenarios from their historical records. "Emergency evacuation protocols," Veltar ordered immediately. "All council personnel to the jump points. We must reach minimum safe distance before the cascade spreads beyond the local system." Keeper Zos remained at the sensor stations, documenting the unfolding catastrophe with scientific precision, even as terror filled its multidimensional consciousness. "The quantum instability is following predicted patterns, but accelerated beyond our models. The humans have somehow created a more efficient destruction mechanism than the predecessors ever achieved." On Earth, President Nicole Carter received reports from the Titan facility that made no sense to anyone except the alien observers. Reality itself was beginning to unravel in a sphere expanding outward from Stone's laboratory at nearly the speed of light. Captain Jake Sullivan, monitoring the situation from orbit, watched through his ship's sensors as the quantum cascade consumed the first small objects in its path. A communications satellite simply ceased to exist, not destroyed or vaporized, but erased from reality so completely that space forgot it had ever been there. "Control, this is Navigator," Sullivan transmitted, his voice shaking. "Something is very wrong out here. I'm reading areas of space where my sensors detect absolutely nothing. Not empty space, not vacuum, just absence." In the Titan laboratory, Stone was making one final desperate attempt to contain the disaster he had unleashed. His equations showed theoretical ways to collapse the quantum fold, but the energy requirements were beyond anything his equipment could provide. "Marcus, we need to evacuate," Ross shouted over the increasing noise of failing systems. "The facility's structure is becoming unstable." "I can fix this," Stone replied, sweat streaming down his face as he worked. "If I can just reverse the fold polarity and inject anti-quantum particles into the disturbance field." Morgan grabbed his shoulder and spun him away from the controls. "Look around you, Doctor. The walls are starting to phase in and out of existence. We need to leave now." Stone looked up from his calculations and saw that she was right. The laboratory walls were flickering like a bad video signal, becoming transparent and solid in random patterns. Equipment was disappearing piece by piece as the expanding zone of quantum instability reached the facility's outer sections. The evacuation of Titan facility became a race against the spreading destruction. Scientists and engineers fled in whatever vehicles they could find, watching in their rear windows as buildings simply vanished behind them. The quantum cascade consumed matter without heat or light, leaving behind voids that hurt to perceive. President Carter received the final transmission from the facility just before the communication systems failed. Stone's voice, broken and defeated, carried across the distance between Earth and Titan with his last words to humanity. "I was wrong. The Council was right. Tell Earth. Tell them I'm sorry. The cascade cannot be stopped. It will reach Luna in approximately 4 hours, then Earth, 6 hours after that. Evacuate who you can. The quantum instability follows entanglement networks. It will spread throughout human space and beyond. I have doomed not just our species, but countless others who exist in the affected quantum foam regions." The first major celestial object consumed by the cascade was one of Saturn's moons. Enceladus, with its underground oceans and potential for life, simply stopped existing. Where the small moon had orbited for billions of years, there was now a wound in reality that sensors could not penetrate. Ambassador Veltar transmitted humanity's final warning to Council headquarters while his ship prepared for emergency departure. The human quantum cascade is following the most destructive pattern in our records. Estimated affected region will include at least 47 inhabited systems. Recommend immediate evacuation of all Council assets within 50 light years of the Sol system. On Earth, panic began to spread as government leaders received reports they could not fully understand. The approaching disaster was beyond human comprehension, a force that would erase their planet and everyone on it from existence itself. There would be no survivors, no ruins, no trace that humanity had ever existed. Captain Sullivan watched from his ship as Earth's moon Luna encountered the expanding edge of the quantum cascade. The ancient satellite, humanity's first stepping stone to the stars, flickered once and then vanished completely. In its place was an absence so profound that it created psychological pain in anyone who tried to observe it directly. "Luna is gone," Sullivan reported, his voice hollow with shock. "Not destroyed, not broken apart, just gone. There's nothing where it used to be, not even empty space." The final hours of Earth passed in a strange mixture of panic and resignation. Some people rioted in the streets, while others gathered with their families to wait for the end. Religious leaders offered what comfort they could, though no faith had prepared its followers for extinction by quantum cascade. President Carter remained at her post in the White House, coordinating evacuation efforts that everyone knew were pointless. No human technology could outrun the speed of light, and the quantum cascade was expanding at nearly that velocity. The few ships that tried to flee Earth's orbit were consumed by the growing void before they could reach safe distance. Stone spent his final hours in a bunker beneath the Titan facility ruins, still working frantically on equations he hoped might contain the disaster. Even as reality crumbled around him, he refused to accept that the situation was hopeless. His mathematical models showed theoretical solutions that required energy equivalent to several stars, but he continued calculating. Anyway, Ross remained with him until the end, documenting their final observations of the quantum cascade effects. "Marcus, the quantum foam degradation is accelerating. We have maybe 30 minutes before the effect reaches us." "I almost have it," Stone muttered, scribbling equations on paper since his computers had ceased to exist. "If we could generate a counter-resonance field using quantum-locked particles, we might be able to stabilize the space-time matrix." The Council ships watched from their minimum safe distance as Earth's solar system was systematically erased from existence. Mercury vanished first, followed by Venus. The quantum cascade consumed the inner planets methodically, leaving behind voids that would never heal. When the expanding zone of quantum instability finally reached Earth itself, the planet did not explode or burn. It simply stopped being, along with every human being who had ever lived there. 8 billion lives, thousands of years of history, and humanity's dreams of reaching the stars all vanished in an instant that left no trace they had ever existed. The last transmission from Earth came from President Carter, speaking into a communication system that was already beginning to phase out of reality. "To whoever finds this record, we were humanity. We reached for the stars and grasped destruction instead. Learn from our mistake. Some knowledge is too dangerous to seek." Captain Sullivan, watching from his ship beyond the lunar orbit, saw his homeworld flicker once and then disappear completely. Where Earth had turned peacefully for billions of years, there was now only a wound in space that made his instruments scream warnings he had never heard before. Ambassador Veltar recorded the final moments of the human species with the cold precision of a scientist documenting a natural phenomenon. The quantum cascade had consumed the entire inner solar system in less than 8 hours, creating an expanding bubble of non-existence that would continue growing until it exhausted the local quantum foam energy. Human extinction confirmed. Veltar reported to Council headquarters. "The cascade effect is following predicted parameters and should stabilize within the next standard year. Affected region encompasses approximately 15 cubic light years. All Council assets have withdrawn.